So my question is, are you living at your highest expression? Are you expressing yourself, or are you expressing your trauma? That's a big question, because I feel like a lot of us are expressing our trauma more so than we're expressing our authentic selves and our healed selves. What does expressing our trauma look like? It means dating people who you would not even align with if you were in a healed space. It means being afraid to take chances. It means walking around with an attitude and people getting the idea that you're a miserable person and you're just not shining your light. That's what showing up and expressing your trauma looks like. When you're expressing your healed self, your most authentic self, that's when you can express the light. A space of love, a space of healing, and a space of growth. This podcast was created to break generational curses. I'm your host, Pink Rose. Welcome to the Don't Recycle Project. I pray this platform inspires you and encourages you to open your minds and open your heart and open your ears. And I pray that leads to healing, not only within yourself, but within your entire family. With that being said, welcome back to the Don't Recycle Project. I am your host, Pink Rose. This podcast was created to break generational curses. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about a really, really deep topic. This one's deep, so I'm going to need you to get out your notebooks. I'm going to need you to get out your tape recorder, something. But this is one for the books. We're talking about epigenetics. What is epigenetics? First of all, let's break the word itself down. The term epi means the environment around you. Genetics is pretty self-explanatory. It's your DNA. It's what your body is made up of, right? So what is DNA? For those who don't know, it's a very, very long word. You're going to have to Google that yourself because I cannot pronounce it. But DNA is basically the codes that your body uses to function. So your cells all have DNA. So you have stomach cells, you have brain cells, heart cells, everything in your body is DNA. And that is what you are programmed with. And that's why you are who you are. So why is that important when it comes to epigenetics? Well, epigenetics is basically, it's like something that has hacked your DNA. So you came to the earth naturally, your body had a program of what it's supposed to feel like, what does what. A stomach cell doesn't act like a hair cell for a reason. A brain cell doesn't act like a heart cell for a reason. That's why at night your heart is still pumping without your permission, because a heart cell is programmed to do what it does best. And that's to keep pumping blood through your body, right? But what epigenetics does, it basically comes in on top of those programs and those instructions on those cells and says, hey, instead of doing this, how about we do this? Instead of being a heart cell and pumping, how about you stop doing that and you just don't pump blood for this minute? So epigenetics is really important. It's something that we should all know about. We should all be learning about. It's a newer study, but as they're finding more and more out about epigenetics, the study of it's crazy. To know that something that my grandparents went through, just the thought that my grandma could have went through something, right? And her trauma can literally be passed on to me. What my grandma went through, I can still feel the effects of it today in 2024. Like, when you think about that, it's like, it's not that it's a bad thing that you're passed on certain traits, habits, behaviors, right? But when you look at things like just your eating patterns or fears you might have or anxieties you might have, and you don't know why you have these things, nor do these things serve you currently. Like, it may have been normal for, your parents to operate at a certain stress level because they had to be aware of certain things, right? But if you were born into a safer environment, you can now relax. You can now flow differently. You can now enjoy and open up a little bit more. You don't have to be so guarded, so, resistant to meeting people or interacting with different races. You don't have to have these same fears, right? But if you don't stop and reprogram and throw out the junk DNA, they call it junk DNA. It's literally DNA that you just don't need it. Like, what is the point of this? A lot of times we have beliefs, we have fears, we have misconceptions and ideas, preferences, prejudices because our parents did, right? Because their parents did, because their parents did, because somebody told them to. And the scary part for me is it's like even if you don't just naturally start to behave the same way, right? You're underneath the care when you're raised by your parents. Their beliefs, their ideas, their fears, they can now teach you those things. And then you start to see the world in a tainted kind of way. Now you start to behave in a certain kind of way. Don't get me wrong. It's like sometimes things are for our protection. Like if my parents say, hey, you shouldn't walk across that street, for my protection, right? Because at 3 years old, I didn't know that. I didn't have that awareness. So some things are there to protect, but you have to pray for discernment. You have to sit with yourself and say, what is for my protection? What is something that I should continue to be aware of and keep passing on? And what is just no longer needed? Like, what baggage am I carrying that is just no longer needed on this journey? You have to study your DNA, study your habits so you can get back to yourself. Because right now, a lot of us got scripts that are they just running on programs. If you can remove that program, though, and then you can now show up in the world as your most authentic self. Now you can express yourself. So my question is, are you living at your highest expression? Are you expressing yourself or are you expressing your trauma? That's a big question. Because I feel like a lot of us are expressing our trauma more so than we're expressing our authentic selves and our healed selves. What does expressing our trauma look like? It means dating people who you would not even align with if you were in a healed space. It means being afraid to take chances. It means walking around with an attitude and people getting the idea that you're a miserable person and you're just not shining your light. That's what showing up and expressing your trauma looks like. When you're expressing your healed self, your most authentic self, that's when you can express the light. See, when we're operating in our natural selves, I believe our natural selves, if we got back to our natural scripts, natural programs, to me, that's God's most authentic expression that we were given. And that's how we're supposed to be moving and operating and expressing ourselves without fears, without anxiety. Those are our original instructions. But when we've been programmed in so many different programs and TV shows and music and pop culture and friends and parents and everybody just throwing ideas onto you about who you are, who you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to see the world. When you have so many people throwing their ideas and then you're soaking these things up, now you're reprogramming yourself. I'm 35, I have kids, I shouldn't do this. I'm a black woman, I should not work here. I cannot have this opportunity. I should not cross this street. I should not go to this college. I should not try and get this degree. I should not go into this room. I cannot have this amount of money. All these programs are just hindrances. They're just hindrances. So you have to study yourself and sit with yourself and ask yourself, is this my most authentic expression? Is this the expression that God wants me to express myself at? Is this just something that was passed on to me that I'm just carrying the load of the past? And at this point, I feel like a lot of us, we're having to reteach our parents, because a lot of them have so many, deeply embedded programs running. They don't even realize it. They're just cycling, they're just recycling just these old ideologies of things, of the world. And I feel like it's our job to really become aware. First part is awareness of self, being able to look at yourself and say, whoa, why do I believe that? Because it becomes so robotic, you don't even know you're doing it. It becomes so secondhand, you just wake up and do it because you're so used to it. But when you're aware of it, you can look at it and say, oh, wait a minute, that's not me. That's not who I'm supposed to naturally, that's not my natural flow. Let me stop that. Let me change that. Let me change the way I talk to myself. Let me change the way I behave. Let me change my environment. There was a study done by a neurobiologist named Carrie Ressler. So what Carrie Ressler and a colleague did, they studied mice. They took male mice and they also took the scent of cherry blossom. What they did with the male mice and this scent of cherry blossom is they had the mice smell it, and then they also inflicted pain at the same time. Over time, the mice now equate pain, cherry blossom. Pain, cherry blossom. So anytime they smell cherry blossom, their blood pressure spikes up. Everything that lets them know that they should be afraid because they're about to feel pain happens when they smell cherry blossom, right? So they kept doing the study. What happened was they stopped inflicting pain and they just kept letting the mice smell the cherry blossom. And they realized that the mice still reacted as if they were in pain, even when there was no pain, just because they had been programmed, right? What they then did, the story gets better. What they then did, they then studied the mice's offspring. So they took the mice's male offspring and they had them smell the cherry blossom. Now, the difference with these mice, they did not inflict pain. They did not inflict pain on those mice. However, they still had the same behavior as if they were in pain, just like their parents. So that's just so crazy to me how literally they were able to study and prove how literally your parents, your grandparents might have went through a certain situation that caused them to behave a certain way, that caused them to be afraid and have fear. And then it showed how it can be passed down to you. So now you're walking around scared, afraid, you got anxiety, you got depression. You just see the world as this scary place because your parents taught that to you, passed that down to you. They programmed that into you. I don't know who coined this term, but heredity is not your destiny. I just love that because it just says so much. It says heredity is not your destiny, meaning what's your genetics, where you was raised at. It doesn't mean that's all you can become, because the beautiful thing is you can reprogram. The only reason why your family has certain diseases in your family, like high blood pressure or high stress levels, the only reason why your family, why that's a genetic thing, like you ever heard somebody say, oh, that runs in my family? No, it's not. It doesn't. What runs in your family is the eating habits. What runs in your family is your stress levels and how you guys are used to operating. That's what runs in your family. But your cells are actually, they're supposed to be healthy. They're supposed to function and do what they were naturally designed to. It's the programs that is what runs in your family. That's what needs to be clipped and nipped at the bud. So my mom used to say something to me. She used to say, because this gets in, now we're getting into nature versus nurture. So is it how you were born? Your genetic makeup is beautiful, right? It's the nurture, the environment that you were raised in. That's what dictates a lot of who you are. That's what makes up what decisions you make, what patterns you have, what programs are running in your mind is how you were nurtured and what environment you were. What were they saying to you in that environment? Were they encouraging you? Were they congratulating you? Were they affirming you? Because that outside environment, this is a good one. That environment turns into your environment. So now your environment, what are you saying to yourself? Because that's the program. So the environment, meaning your external world, you had things going. Your parents may not have, equipped you. They may have been talking down to you. They may have been telling you things like you ain't good enough. You won't ever be anything. Your teacher might have been the one telling you these things. Your partner, whatever was in your environment that was programming you, and you took those beliefs in and you turned that into your environment. So now your internal voice, your internal chatter, what you tell yourself when you look in the mirror has now become those things. So you have to look at those programs, because those programs that are programmed onto you become your own, and you have the full power. You have the choice to stop any program. You have the power. It's just a matter of the awareness of the program. So epigenetics is a huge study. It's a lot deeper than where I can go with it. I'm not a biologist. I just nerd out on this stuff. But I just think it's so interesting how our DNA can literally be programmed. I think it's so interesting how literally we have so many cells in our body, and they're all designed to function how they do. Like every cell has the same makeup. It's just the coding that's on the cells. That's just the most genius, God is just amazing. Like it's just like, whoa. It's like mind blowing. The only ones who get in the way are ourselves. We have the power to reprogram ourselves and remove anything that's not helping you, because it's in your, like, you're made beautiful. You were made perfect. You were made whole. There were no mistakes with your design, with our design as humanity. There were no mistakes made. Even the diseases, like, we were not designed to have diseases. We were not designed to feel bad and walk around with health issues. We were not designed for that. We were not designed to have cancer. Like, why would our creator design us to have disease? Like, that makes no sense. Even nature knows how to go and heal itself. Like, it's us who, we get in our way. We try to outsmart things. So now we walk around with diseases and we're taking pills for this, pills for that. And we just are making the problem worse instead of just like healing ourselves in a real way, healing the root of the problem, because the root is healing us down to a cellular level. We got to heal at the cellular level, and then we can see it on a whole level. I'm just so like into this study of epigenetics, and I hope you guys, on your own time, just, start to research this topic a lot more. It's so deep. It's a newer study, but the research that's been done, it's just like, it's so like enlightening, and I'm able to see myself on, like I said, a genetic level, on a cellular level, and ask myself, whoa, why am I doing this? Why am I afraid of this? Why do I believe that? And I'm able to transform myself and get back to my most natural self. We talk about triggers a lot. And what is a trigger? A trigger is basically PTSD. So a good way to tell if you got like fears and different things that you're carrying is by what you're triggered by. Why are you triggered by this person? Why don't you like those? Why don't you like that group of people? What did they do to you? Why are you why are you afraid? Why do you get afraid when you go to certain environments? Like, and you can't even recall an exact memory of something bad that happened to you in that environment or with those people. So it's like, when you feel yourself triggered by something, lean into that. Because PTSD, a lot of us are walking around with post-traumatic stress disorder, and we don't even know it. The same way a war veteran can come back and be traumatized to the point where they can't even celebrate 4th of July. A lot of us have so many different fears and anxieties and PTSD that were programmed that we didn't even experience. Like, something my dad went through could really, truly affect me on a cellular level. The same phobias, the same just, things that may have affected this person can really, truly affect you based off of your genetics and the DNA and just how you're programmed. But again, you have the power to reprogram, to stop the program, and to get back to your natural self. So, PTSD, it's not just because you were in the Army. It's not just because you were in the Marines. It's a real thing. And a lot of us have it, and we have to heal that. We have to heal that. So definitely study epigenetics more if you can. It's a beautiful topic, a beautiful study that's being done. And there's so much more to learn and understand. I could not break it all down if I wanted to, but this is what I can definitely, make you aware that it exists. It's a real thing. So yes, I hope this resonated with you. I hope you learned something. I hope your heart stayed open and your ears remained open and you was able to grasp just some of the information. Thank you again for taking the time to join me on the Don't Recycle Project. Please continue to recycle your environmental waste. Follow us on IG at the Don't Recycle Project. Please share this with a friend, with a family member. Share it with somebody. Until next time, blessings.